Hello, my name is Dr. Moira. I'm a health psychologist and I'm on the board of the Sleep Health Foundation. We are delighted to be involved with this clip. This clip has been developed for school principals and school staff to highlight the critical connection between sleep and mental health. We're very excited to be partnering with Headspace to promote good sleep health strategies. We at the Sleep Health Foundation always talk about the importance of good food, physical fitness and good sleep. And until recently, no one's really talked about good sleep. And that's our focus. We're aiming to improve the lives of all Australians, particularly school staff and school principals, in regard to improving their sleep. If we don't sleep, we're more at risk of anxiety, we're more at risk of being triggered for depression. We all know how grumpy and unstable we can feel. So in this clip, I'm going to talk you through 5 practical strategies aiming to improve your sleep health. Strategy or principle number 1 is to maximise your sleep drive. That means make sure that you're as sleepy and as tired as possible when you actually go to bed. Don't go into bed because you think you should, because it's 9:30. Go to bed when your sleep drive tells you that you're sleepy and tired enough. It's important to match the time in bed with the amount of sleep that you're going to realistically get. So if you're having trouble sleeping and only getting 5 or 6 hours, during that time, actually aim for 5 or 6 hours and go with where your sleep drive's at. Our sleep drive is low in the morning and it gets higher and higher the more we're awake. And we want it to be as maximal, as high as possible to actually optimise our sleep when we're ready for sleep. The next major principle that's very simple is to look after your natural body clock. All of us have an internal body clock that is not exactly 24 hours, but we're trying to live in a 24-hour day that is very precise. The clock ticks over, the sun rises, everything is in a precise 24-hour time zone. Our body clocks are slightly under or slightly over 24 hours. So all of us, our sleeping, our body temperature rhythm, our melatonin rhythm, our ability on a maths task, anything has an actual circadian rhythm. So if you know you're a night owl or you know you're a lark getting up early, try as much as possible to stick to where you're at with your natural body clock. That includes not matching your partner, trying not to go with your partner's body clock. Actually be very, very aware of your own internal rhythms. So the next principle is to minimise internal disruptions, both physical and mental. So physical disruptions can be snoring, restlessness, sleep apnea, insomnia, etc. It's very, very important to be aware if you do have sleep problems, despite adequate opportunity for sleep, you still feel sleepy and tired. It's very, very important to speak to your GP and get referred to a sleep disorder centre. Mental internal disruptions, as we all know, include rumination, worry, stress, etc. It's very, very important also to prepare for bed, to minimise those internal disruptions. Actually set aside a time in the early evening as like a worry time, half an hour, pen and paper in hand, to actually make sure that you get rid of all those internal disruptions, externalise them onto the paper, and then you realise that you've done one step closer to not carrying them into the bedroom with you. The next principle is to minimise external disruptions. So example, noise, light, temperature. It may seem very straightforward and obvious, but it is extremely important to make sure that your environment is as quiet as possible. So use earplugs if you have a noisy partner. Make sure it's as dark as possible, and make sure you're not too hot or too cold. Those basic things can make a really big difference. The final principle, which is probably the most important, is to develop a positive attitude to sleep. Some of us who've already had some sleeping problems actually start to have a very negative attitude to sleep. You start identifying as a poor sleeper and almost be nervous or anxious about the sleep itself. So it's very, very important to go with wherever you're at with sleep. If you're not sleeping so well at that time, put into place the other principles we've talked about, and you'll be surprised at how easy it might come to actually just get a little bit better sleep. So sometimes it just means it's a threshold of maybe 10% or 20% improvement, not becoming an A+ student when you used to be a D student. Sometimes it's actually okay to be just mediocre with sleep but good enough. So it's very important to make sure you only aim for 7 or 8 hours as an adult. Younger people need more sleep, but try to only be in bed for 7 or 8 hours if you're only going to get 7 to 8 hours. Sometimes we can increase frustration by tossing and turning and just increasing the cycle of worry around sleep. There's two further things I'd like to briefly touch on. The first is the use of our handheld devices or technology in the bedroom or anywhere just prior to sleep. It's very, very important to give ourselves a 1 to 2 hour buffer zone, because the blue light that's being emitted from those devices is actually known to delay our melatonin rhythm, so therefore delay our sleep onset. And apart from that, it's actually very stimulating anyway. It's just way too stimulating. So it's something that's crept up on us. It's only been the last 6 to 10 years that we've had access to these devices and people bringing them into their bedroom. So the really, really strong message is to don't throw away your technology and your fun, but just make sure you have a 1 to 2 hour buffer before you go to sleep. The other thing that's probably a really important thing to touch on is, what do you actually do if you find yourself awake at, say, 3 a.m. and frustrated and alert and not knowing what to do? The simple answer is to actually, first of all, don't panic. First of all, realise that sleep is full of lots of ups and downs, lots of light stages, deep stages. It's a normal part of any sleep period is to wake, but it's not normal to stay awake for ages. So first of all, try and relax about it, try to normalise it. Don't look at the clock if you can resist the temptation. If you've been lying there for what seems like half an hour or more and you're quite frustrated and upset, it's a very, very good idea, in fact mandatory really, in keeping with good sleep principles, to get up, go and do something else, just a quiet activity out in another room, perhaps a lounge room, or if that's too difficult, just maybe sit in your chair in your room to minimise disruption to other people. So when you're out sitting in the chair, waiting to be sleepy and tired again, try not to put too much pressure on yourself. Just wait. It could be 5 minutes, it may be over an hour, but at some point you will actually feel sleepy and tired again, and at that point return to the bed, give it another go and see how you go. This may be a process that happens a couple of times, but it will actually work eventually. So it's very, very important for all adults, including adolescents, to make use of mindfulness-based strategies. There's very good evidence in our sleep literature to tell us that people who are using mindfulness-based stress reduction strategies will actually improve their sleep quality and actually their quantity, and reduce the time it takes to get to sleep. So we encourage people to have a very mindful attitude day and night to help them cope with the pressures of daily life, and to actually just improve your chances of actually getting a good night's sleep, because your nervous system will be that of a relaxed nervous system rather than a stressed out nervous system, and sleep will be much easier to obtain. So if you are having ongoing trouble sleeping, or any persistent problems of mood, restlessness in bed, severe snoring, or waking unrefreshed despite adequate opportunity for sleep, make sure that you go and talk to your doctor about it. Both the Sleep Health Foundation and the Australasian Sleep Association have lists of sleep centres and sleep specialists across Australia. Your GP can refer you to a sleep specialist or psychologist. We're here to help. Please visit www.sleephealthfoundation.org.au. We really care about getting school principals and school staff better sleep, because we're very aware that that will be passed on to adolescents and children in the care of these people. Because if all of us start to get better sleep, our overall mental health and physical health and just the well-being of society will be greatly improved.